Hey, hi, hello. It's your boy Nate. I usually read books because reading is sexy, and if you're not reading, you're not sexy. But today, we got the monthly watches. Everything I watched in November. First off, sorry about the lighting situation. December is just really packed, and I don't have time to do this sit down. So I'm doing it now. It's 8:30 p.m. And if you must know, I am filming this on December 2nd. November was also, strangely enough, quite busy too. I packed that month with more than I think I could chew on. But I only managed about 16 movies. A major theme for November was the films of Joan Micklin Silver. She's an independent filmmaker who makes a lot of her films in New York, and they're about that city, suburban life, rundown mundanity of life. And she sort of exists in the same realm as, say, Nancy Meyers or Nora Ephron, but after having gone through a majority of her filmography, I realized that they're quite talky. They're really these soft conversations, nothing too serious, nothing of much meat, but there's just this absolute charm, as if these are your neighbors, like these are people you know, and they feel so colloquial and down to earth. And in the end, you do love all of her characters because they seem to be drawn from real people and perhaps real conversations that she's eavesdropped on. And I think I have one film left. I managed most of her filmography. There's like maybe 2 or 3 short films, but I am missing Chilly Scenes of Winter out of 1979, and I think I'll do that as my first watch of December. But yeah, this is sort of gonna be my tier list of Joan Micklin Silver. Also just some other things that I watched in the month. And then I think I'm gonna try and do this a little differently. I guess talk about what the films reminded me of in terms of like memory in my past. So there's a special one. If you like Nathan lore, this one should be a goodie. All right, number 10 at King Lear out of 1987. This is an adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear by your homeboy, Jean-Luc Godard, and it was atrocious. It was pompous, atrocious, made no sense. I had no idea that it was even set in the future, like in an apocalyptic world. Norman Mailer is in the film, Woody Allen is in the film. It's just a train wreck of a film, but it reminded me of being on Vooz and watching all of Godard's filmography. What is that? Junior year of high school. I don't know, cinema took hold of me, and I wanted to watch a bunch of things that, 1, I shouldn't have been watching, and 2, watch them illegally. So that's what it reminded me of. This is one of his later works, though. Godard was going through something. He was doing something where he was deconstructing film, and it made me realize that adaptation doesn't have to be faithful. Adaptation can be a deconstruction of a deconstruction, which Godard, I think, with this film and his later work, always tried to do with film. He always tried to break it apart as much as possible, but put it together in this Frankenstein kind of way. And yeah, it just made me realize that, like, you can take things apart, rearrange them in a way that works for you, works in your own voice, and doesn't necessarily have to speak to anything more to the original text, and could be something new. I've been meaning to watch this for a long while because when I heard that Woody Allen was in it, I was just like, what? But it just reminded me of a precocious young Nathan who was so hungry for cinema and went out of his way to try and watch the things he wasn't supposed to be watching. And I love experimental. I always have a soft spot for anything that tries to step outside of the box. Number 9, I watched Only You out of 1994. This reminds me of sort of those films that my mom liked to watch while folding laundry, and it's just those feel-good movies that you just instantly put on and instantly fall in love with. You have a young Robert Downey Jr. and about a woman who, through fortune teller and through other mysterious circumstances, a Ouija board as well, is told that she is fated to love this very particular person. And Robert Downey Jr.'s character fakes his way into being this person, and everything falls apart. But just the way that female lead works and how she wins in the end is just a lot of fun. It just made me think about all the things that my mom was growing up on while I was growing up alongside her. My introduction to Sex and the City was actually with my mom. I know. But it was on TV before bed, and we would watch it together. And I don't know, there's just something always so fabulous about Carrie Bradshaw's hair. A big fan of it. And just like the silk slip dresses. And just something so elegant. And then also the films of Nora Ephron, too. Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail. Just movies that meant a great deal to her, and movies that made her tear up and laugh. And I could just see the fullness of my mother in these films, and I think that's why they mean a great deal to me. It's just one of those feel-good films. Sorry, y'all. I literally made this list at work during a meeting in my notes app while looking at my letterboxd. I'm definitely a good employee. At number 8, I have A Fish in the Bathtub out of 1998, another Joan Micklin Silver, and I forget the name of this actor, so I'm gonna go find his name. What is your name, good sir? He was on The King of Queens. He plays that like really angry person in like every single TV show or movie. What's his name? Jerry Stiller. Fantastic in this. He was born to play this role. Just his delivery and everything is always so wonderful. He's so spunky. I love it. For such a small man. This reminds me of having worked at the retirement home and catering service around elderly folks and always trying to pick fights. Either because they're tired, they have nothing better to do, or they're just super senile. But here you have a man on the brink of a separation, divorce, potentially, while going through a bunch of other family antics. Parts of family are collapsing, and everyone tries to get back together by way of a fish in the bathtub. For the most part, it was fine. Reminded me a lot of The Last Days of Disco, and sort of the kind of talkie films. Sort of the kind of talkie film that is, but with old people. I imagine this to be what an Ann Tyler book should be. I wonder, like, does Ann Tyler actually do comedy? What is her funniest book? Somebody let me know. What I did love about working at the retirement home and sort of these catering gigs was that old people, they got money and they don't know where to put it. They don't got a grandson or a granddaughter that really loves them enough to give money to, and so I was put into that role. Anyone 16 or 17 watching this, go work at a retirement home. You might come across the most annoying people on the planet, but let me tell you, the tips, so yummy. So yummy. But it makes me, think about my own vanity and like, if I ever get to that age, gosh golly, would anybody love me? But I think it's so realistic though. The pains, the anxieties of being old and still wanting to be loved. When you think about it, it's truly heartbreaking. I just can't wait to get to that time. I thought this one was really enjoyable as a Joan Micklin Silver movie. At number 7, I have Charms for the Easy Life out of 2002, another Micklin Silver film about a home doctor who just works more in herbal medicine. And, I don't know any of the actresses' names, but you do. I'm sure you do. So let me go find them. It's as if Gilmore Girls was set in the 1900s, like early 1900s, because it has Gina Rowlands, Mimi Rogers, and Susan May Pratt. Stellar cast. It's about a family saga and the generations between women and what they want, how do they provide for each other, and what they mean to the community as well, while of course having romantic interests. And yeah, this just reminded me of Lifetime movies and how at a time in America, I think they were really important. Late 90s, early 2000s, and how, I don't know, they just kind of kept the house in order, or at least the sentiments, or the open heart, open enough in a family. For any of my suburban folk, 2.5 Children, White Picket Fence, those films meant something, where they maintained some kind of order in a household. It did, sort of in my own family. We would put it on if there was nothing else on TV. Also just another folding laundry movie. My mom would watch them. Yeah, this one was really charming. And Joan Micklin Silver did a few other TV films, which I will not mention here because they're actually kind of atrocious. This is one of the better ones. And it's just so comforting and rich, with a very touching end. Just makes me think about legacy and what the future of my family looks like. Not my own, but like just brothers and, yeah, I don't know. really like my family. Made me really hate my family less. I was gonna say love, but too strong. I think too strong. At number 6, I have another Micklin Silver film, Big Girls Don't Cry, They Get Even, out of 1991. This is sort of a child runaway story because she can't handle the family antics and sort of varying different characters within her family. It's just kind of like a fun summer teen movie. Reminds me a bit of like The Parent Trap, but just like the last half of it. This reminded me of... My family and I would usually take a trip to Mammoth sometime in the late spring. Probably for spring break, I think that's what it is, or either the start of summer. And we would go up to Mammoth to go fishing. And so we would take these fishing trips. My father had a license and my mother did too. And I think the law was that you were allowed to catch 20 fish a day per person. When we would get the fish, we would cook it ourselves as well. I remember one time my mom made fish sticks out of them, but I was so sick. They made me so sick. But we had stayed in a cabin and it was quite beautiful. I'd never stayed in a cabin before. And it was the first time where I experienced the horrors of like being in the woods. Just hearing those sounds and not knowing what's out there, yeah, it really did frighten me. But I liked it a lot. I just love wearing sandals and putting my feet in the cold rivers and creeks. And there's like a beautiful patience to fishing that I think was super meditative for my father. The sound of running water and just letting time pass by. At number 5, I have Loverboy out of 1989, another Micklin Silver film. This is one of the better fun ones where it's about pizza delivery boy gigolo. He has no money and he has to find a way to pay his way into college. And so he does that while seeing many different married women looking for different needs through him. He sort of builds empathy and understanding for women, seeing all these other women. This one reminds me of this girl, and if she's still out there, her bed used to smell like homemade cookies. But she worked at Porky's Pizza. Something about that. I'd never been to Porky's, actually. I did have a crush on her. She's just so sweet and small and really careful about the attention and care of others. She just reminded me of like comfort of amber lights, frosted cups at Pizza Hut, deep dish pizza. You know what I mean? I don't know. I really do like the crust at Pizza Hut. I don't know, and do people still do that? Do people still go to restaurants to get a whole pizza and eat it together? I'm very much like a New York slice kind of person as well. But yeah, I haven't been to like a pizza place since. Oh no, that's a lie. I'd once eaten 6 slices to myself in Santa Barbara and then threw it all up because I partied way too hard in Isla Vista. God forbid. Yikes, that was another time, another version of Nathan that I don't want to get into. Anyway. Okay, at number 4, I have Crossing Delancey out of 1988. I think this is one of my favorite Micklin Silvers, and this will be the last of her work that will be mentioned on this list. Yeah, it was really good, just because of how cozy and more Nancy Meyers / Nora Ephron-esque it feels. The whole start of the film is a party at a bookstore, and there's like a book signing, but it's about saving the bookstore as well. And there's just something so charming about that. But it's about a woman who doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to find a man, but her overbearing mother, who's so charming and so funny, tries to set her up with a pickler. And it's just really sweet and cute and meanders a bit, but you don't mind at all because you love the characters so much. They feel like everyone you know, and it's just so comforting. It's a really great comfort film. I feel like this is a film that my mom would like, but this one reminds me of walking the streets of Chinatown for 2 different boys in my lifetime. Yeah, something about the busy streets of New York, but the congestion of Chinatown as well. And I'd walked both the streets when it was in the middle of winter, I believe, sometime in January. One was in the evening, and I think I was playing Freetown Sound, the album by Blood Orange, and the streets just made sense. The music of the streets just made sense. For the other boy, I'd woken up from his apartment and almost died walking down the stairs because they were so icy. And I forgot what I was doing, but oh gosh, there's a great bar in Chinatown that I forget the name of. I think it's Mr. Jews. Correct me if I'm wrong. That doesn't sound right. Is this in New York? No, this is San Francisco. Mr. Jews is a restaurant in San Francisco. Oh, what is it called? It's gonna bug me. Mr. Fong's. I still have dreams about that bar, y'all. I love Mr. Fong's. Ooh, oops, that should have been gatekept, but I think what it was is that on Spotify, they had playlists, and they would post like a monthly playlist. I don't know if they still do. Also because he bought me all my drinks, and they were really good drinks. I think I only had 2 or 3 cocktails, but they're divine. And just like the space is cozy and charming enough to have something intimate. Anyway, Nathan Laura for you. And I just ungatekept one of my favorite spots. At number 3, I have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom out of 1984. This was a rewatch for me. Don't ask me why. I just really wanted to rewatch it. Growing up, I was a big indie fan, as well as a Star Wars fan. Not so much Star Trek. I don't know why, but just like my whole family really liked Star Wars and Indiana Jones for some reason. I think we all watched The Crystal Skull together in the movie theater, and it was like a family event. Like we went to dinner, we watched the movie, we got dessert after, which was so rare for us. I think the Temple of Doom was my mom and dad's favorite one, and I think my brother's too. I didn't really like it that much. I think I liked The Last Crusade the most, which is so weird to say because in retrospect, I think it's the most boring one. I don't know. I think it was like the father-son relationship that I really liked. Probably says a lot about me. It was good. I forget how gory it is, and I really love the opening to the film. I forget her face, but the female lead, she sings Anything Goes in Mandarin, and it's so bad. Like, the Mandarin's so bad. But the theatrics of the whole dance, it's like so gorgeous, and I can't believe Spielberg did that. It's such a beautiful opening. I love it lots. It's one I still think about quite often. It's still fun. Holds up quite well. I just love how it looks with all its film grain and stuff. Any indie fans out there? I actually really like The Crystal Skull, as like not great as it might be, but like y'all, Cate Blanchett as a Russian with a bob, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. All right. At number 2, I have The Virgin Suicides out of 1999 by your homegirl Sofia Coppola. Yes, reread the book, had to rewatch the film. Still holds up, still incredible. I think there's like a weird pacing issue in the 3rd or last act. I just don't think Sophia kind of knew how to wrap it all up in a really strong way, but all the aesthetics are there. It's just gorgeously shot, and I just love how she captured the sentiment of the suburbs. She has such a careful eye on girlhood and being a girl, just being coy and shy and private yet explorative. And yeah, it's still a beautiful film. To go back on adaptation, a really faithful adaptation to the original text by Jeffrey Eugenides. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this. This reminds me of listening to Coconut Records when my friend hands me the aux and I play West Coast, and windows rolled down and we all belted out because we know all the lyrics and we're on the West Coast. There's just a liberty, a freedom while being a teen, driving really fast down the highway with that song on. Played it a lot actually, like after a bunch of parties or on the way home or even alone in my bedroom too. It just reminds me of all the illusions of freedom that we give to ourselves as teenagers. And it's always funny when it's through music like that. But yeah, also reminds me of days of Arcade Fire, R.I.P. Yeah, that album, The Suburbs, really meant a great deal to me. All right, last film is Anora, out of this year, by Sean Baker. I have mixed feelings about this. I think I talked about it in my November favorites ins and outs video. But this reminded me of people I used to party with. I kind of miss it. But I used to party with like a bunch of ABGs, you know, your homegirl who worked at a boba shop, relied solely on tips as a server, and also worked as escorts, and they would go to raves. They were rave babies. They loved EDM. They drove really fast, fancy cars, and that was their life. And, you know, we drank too much Hennessy. I do miss it all. I miss them in some sort of strange way. I always told myself I'd write the great American novel based on the ABG, on the San Gabriel Valley, because I think that area is so interesting when we think about Asian American living. There's that whole discourse about like West Coast Asians being like super toxic and full of themselves versus like any other Asian, say in the Midwest or on the East Coast, but it was such a very pungent upbringing. I mean that in the best way possible and the worst way possible. But yeah, a lot of culture and history, import and export of Western and Eastern ideas just mixed up in a really strange concoction. But yeah, Anora is about a sex worker who gets into cahoots with this Russian boy. And in a Safdie Brothers-esque kind of thrill ride, you wonder, when does hedonism end? It reminded me of those great old party days with people who, though they might not be the smartest bulb in the world, they are really the sweetest and kindest, and sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, and that's it. Those are all the films. Let me know if you liked this. I know the film wrap-ups don't perform as well as like any of the other videos I have on this channel, but cinema means a lot to me, and I see the world through cinema. Ooh, did I really just say all that? Yikes. I love movies. I love the moving pictures. Let me know if you watched anything really cool recently. I love adding things to my Letterboxd. I'm quite active on Letterboxd. I do write-ups. And yeah, that's it. Again, apologies for this lighting situ. Thanks for always being here. And as always, be well, do good work, keep in touch.